I think homework is particularly helpful for math. It gives the kids a chance to practice what we're doing in class, nothing more than that.
I think sometimes it is necessary, but I don't think it's something that is all the time, like necessary every day, at least for the classes that I teach.
I think that giving homework can be valuable, but I think it depends on what the assignment is and exactly what is the goal or the objective that you want students to get out of doing the assignment at home.
It is a necessary part because kids do need practice for what we do in math class. I mean, other classes, other subjects, maybe it's not quite as crucial, but for math, I think it really is crucial.
It depends on which class we're talking about. So I teach honors anatomy and physical science. And I would say that in anatomy, the homework that I do assign or that I ask to be completed at home, it's a little bit more necessary because of the amount of material that we cover and the things that I ask my students to know.
Homework, I think, is extremely important in English. I think in AP Lang especially, where the goal is to improve writing, and the only way to improve writing is to practice, and to practice in a variety of environments, in a variety of time constraints, when you're comfortable, when you're uncomfortable. And so I think that doing homework at home when it's written work is extremely important.
Very rarely do I give assignments that are strictly homework. Most of the time, anything that I ask to be completed at home, it's something that didn't get completed in class, that we either started in class or that someone didn't finish in class. I'll say, finish this up tonight. So I would say very rarely is something just homework.
I try to assign homework that is almost like every other day, and hopefully doesn't take more than an hour tops. If it's reading, obviously that has to take more time depending on if you're a slower reader, or it takes less time if you're a faster reader. But in terms of writing assignments, I try to assign no more than maybe 2 or 3 a week, and then hopefully that each writing assignment doesn't exceed an hour.
I think it's typically no more than 30 minutes to an hour. Some of it could be even less than that.
I don't always know what other teachers are assigning and what the students are doing for their other classes. I do recognize that with honors anatomy, for example, I have a lot of students who are also taking several AP classes, and that they're constantly having things to do for AP. So I do try to think about that in the amount of things that I ask students to do at home.
I think about that. I'd like to have a way to do that, but the problem is that you've got 100 and some odd students who've all got different schedules. You have a lot of them are taking some of the same classes, so you can kind of get an idea. But it's hard to do that. And what I try to do is to make sure that we have a little bit of time to get started on homework in class, and that it's not an overwhelming burden from the math class.
I don't think about it ahead of time, but I think that when students start telling me about it, I start taking it into account, and I say, oh, I think I remember some of my kids saying something about AP World work or something like that. I do, if a lot of kids are saying, I had a DBQ and it was crazy, I think to myself, well, maybe I'll give them a little bit of time in class before submitting. Or I'll give them one more night just to kind of respond to students' needs depending on, what the stress levels seem to be. And you can kind of tell when a student walks in what their level of stress is at. And I just try to keep that in mind from time to time.
I don't know. I don't think that it should. So from my perspective and me trying to think like a student, I don't think that my homework should be a cause for stress. Like my homework in and of itself, now if they have my homework plus homework for 4 other classes, then yes, they should probably feel some stress. But I don't think that my homework is ever something that's stressful in and of itself.
I do sometimes. I don't see a whole lot of it, but I do see signs of stress. I see some more signs of stress just in general about classes the kids are taking, and I see a lot of stress about quizzes and tests, a lot more so about those than about homework.
I mean, if it were a perfect world, we'd have every time to get everything done at school. But with the way things are set up, with the amount of material that we have to cover, especially in our classes where the class is going to end in a standardized test like physical science, for example. We need to be able to get through X amount of material by X date. And we don't always have enough class time, enough time with students in our classrooms to finish all of that material. So sometimes it is necessary. I mean, in a perfect world, we'd be able to do everything that we wanted to do in class. I'd be there to help students and practice with them constantly, and we'd have time to do that. And then I could send them on their way to live their lives outside of school. I try to do that as much as I can. Like I said, I don't give homework just for the sake of giving homework, but it's not a perfect world. We don't have, the perfect amount of time to do everything that we want to do.
I think that the system of homework is, it's tough to change. I think that it's such a cultural thing now. It's become a part of our whole educational vocabulary. I think that if we had to change it, the best way to do it would be to make homework optional outside of class for students that want to continue growing and practicing. Then that should be work they do out of class. But for students who obviously are apathetic or don't have a desire to grow, I think that that's a personal choice, and I think that that's going to reflect how they progress through school and their academic career, and later in college and career and beyond. I really think that it's unfortunate that we've drilled into students you have to do this amount of homework for every course, when in the real world there are very few jobs that bring work home. So I think that it's kind of cultivating this culture of students who believe that they need to be working all the time, and that's really starting to put a drain on our own mental health as a nation and as a culture. So I really wish we could change it. I don't quite know how, other than making it optional, and those who want to continue to learn, they practice outside of school, but perhaps not making it dependent upon grades. I think that would be a start.